This is Looks Good on Paper, a podcast from Willow about flipping the script on traditional hiring. I'm Ian Chohan, and every episode I put big voices in hiring and work culture through 3 quick-fire questions, speed dating style, to get the habits, trends, and ideas that matter. All right, welcome to another edition of Looks Good on Paper, powered by Willow. I'm Ian Chohan, your host for today, and I am joined with Alyssa-Marie Lefebre, a senior talent acquisition specialist at Clio. She helps the company build strong people-first teams through data-driven strategies that support long-term growth. I'm going to throw it back to you, Alyssa, to share a little bit about maybe what I've missed, and I'd love to hear a little bit how you got to Clio and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is fantastic. My name's Alyssa. I've been in talent acquisition in tech for about a decade now, which is kind of scary to say. I don't know how that happened. I've really fallen in love with hiring for high-performing talent within companies that are truly human-centered, that are growing, that are scaling really quickly. So I came to Clio with that intention. We're growing a ton. I think we've hired over 500 folks this year alone. It's insane. It's a machine. Clio is in the legal tech space. We started out in 2008. We're doing really exciting things in the AI space, really transforming into an AI legal tech company. What I love most about Clio is our human-centered approach when it comes to hiring, when it comes to our employee experience, when it comes to our policies internally. That's kind of what drove me closer to Clio and wanted, kind of encouraged me to want to work there. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. And my bread and butter has always been talent acquisition. I've delved a bit into employee experience. I've delved a bit into other aspects of people ops, but talent acquisition is really where I've spent most of my time. Yeah.
Amazing. First of all, it's a massive company. How many employees in total do you have?
Again, this is because we're just hiring a ton. It's like I like to say over 1,700 people. So it's around that ballpark number. Last year, we raised a $900 million USD fundraise. It was the largest fundraise a startup worldwide has ever achieved, right?
That is huge.
We've been acquiring a lot of smaller kind of companies. In this case, we acquired 2 companies this year that are really going to transform, again, how we play in the AI space and how we step into the enterprise market in EMEA. We're becoming more global in the EMEA and APAC regions. It's just such an exciting place to be. And in comparison to a lot of the tech market right now, where there's a lot of layoffs and where there's a lot of cost cutting,
Yep.
Clio is really poised to invest back into its business and invest in its people. So just overall, it's such a gem of a company.
We love to hear it when a company does a really good job within their policies and with their HR, and people look at how an employee speaks about the company, right? It really does matter, right? So you know the drill for this podcast. We have 3 questions, speed dating style. Same questions every season, and then 1 wild card. And we're going to kick it off now with our first one. So what is the biggest hiring mistake that companies keep even though they know it's clearly not working?
That's a great question. And I kind of landed in 3 spots, but I swear they tie it together. So the first is culture fit versus culture add. I find that when companies adopt culture add, recruiters are more poised to ask questions about if candidates bring different perspectives to the teams that they're currently hiring for. Like what perspectives and what skill sets are missing on the team that can really level us up. And it helps us create more high-performing, diverse teams, as opposed to echo chambers, which is what I think culture fit kind of encourages more of. I think culture fit encourages us to think in a way where you interview a candidate and you're like, oh, is this person like me? Or does this person level up a team in the way that I think that they should, right? So I really love when, companies embrace that culture add. So I think getting that culture fit mentality is certainly kind of a big mistake that companies might still be making. Now, you cannot practice culture add with poorly defined and exclusionary core values. Yeah, you want to be able to equip your hiring team with the right guides and tools so that they know how to interview for your values. And you also want to have a critical thinking part baked into your process. Ideally, before a requisition even gets to a talent
Mm,
acquisition team, really thinking about if a value is counterproductive to hiring for someone on your team, right? If an interviewer doesn't understand that value and just asks questions, it can just that assessment could just be based on gut feel and bias, which is
absolutely.
not good. And then in the same vein, how about if you're hiring for a role where being scrappy isn't totally relevant or even opposite to what you need?
Absolutely.
You can end up penalizing a perfect candidate for not embracing a value that, the job doesn't even require.
Absolutely.
These programs, culture add, you
Hmm.
know, cultural values, they're iterative, right? And you really need to make space at your companies for constantly evolving these programs and critically thinking about these programs. I think a lot of companies are making mistakes on eliminating diversity, equity, and
Hmm.
inclusion programs. There needs to be a leader whose job it is to challenge this stuff, to dig deeper, to really ask
Absolutely.
questions, right? And to challenge.
So if they don't have the values internally outlined from the
Yeah.
very top, how can you expect a hiring manager to then be able to find the right fit? We actually had someone from Microsoft Canada speak as well, and I was very, very interested in how do you build for a big company? Microsoft's massive, right? So it's like, how do you make sure all of those values get brought down to that individual hiring manager, department head, whomever is doing the hiring, right? And I feel like, given that you guys at Clio are hiring so much right now, that this is something that is probably so relevant at this point. So, what are some of the ways that you're doing that in house?
Yep. So I'll give you a great example of one. We had a value that was well intentioned. It was called recharge your way. Unfortunately, we found that our data points to assess this value were failing in the
Mm,
sense that people were confused. And so recharge your way was constantly being recognized for surface level things. Like a lot of it actually had to do with fitness, right? So recharging your way, making sure that you have balance in your in your life so that you can kind of come back to work. So a lot of people were associating recharge your way with fitness, which is not very inclusive.
wellness, right? It's across the
Exactly.
board, just
Yeah.
fitness. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just constant data points and data checks to really make sure that your team is communicating how they're embracing values, I think is really important. And really having a team and again, making space, having folks in your people operations team that are focused on this stuff. If you have a talent acquisition team that's also taking on evaluating values and also looking at how equitable our entire hiring process is, those programs aren't going to be fully baked out. You need folks who really take ownership and really dig deeper and are finding ways to optimize. So, and it's really all about building holistic, sustainable habits for long term momentum. That's what it's all about. So,
Cool.
um,
What I also love is that your team wasn't afraid to, no matter how big the company was, to go
exactly.
back and reassess and be really critical
Yes.
about, is this working? Is this actually
Yes.
reflective of our company DNA? What we want our employees to feel, and again, tying it back to that overall, it comes from the top. So I assume it comes from a very like understanding of what type of culture you guys want and making sure that everybody feels included. Awesome.
We're going
Thank you.
through huge amounts of growth right now, right? Like probably the highest amount of growth that we've ever kind of gone through as a company. And we're still iterating on our values.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so now on to question number two. What's a hidden bias companies unknowingly have, even when they believe that they're being progressive in their hiring?
Where I landed was ambiguity bias when it comes to the interview process. Let's say I'm setting up a 60-minute chat with a candidate and a hiring manager. And the way I describe the chat to or the interview to the candidate is, oh, it'll be a casual chat, just talking about your experience and digging maybe a bit more technically because that person is the hiring manager for the role. And that's it. That's how I
Yeah.
prep the candidate.
Yeah.
That leaves the candidate in this weird guessing game
Yeah.
where they're trying to figure out, okay, what am I being assessed on? What is this person actually looking for? What kind of questions am I going to be asked? It creates this, this weird dynamic, right? Where candidates are coming in and not necessarily knowing where to focus on and ultimately getting penalized for just not, being able to story tell or have that innate kind of skill set of being able to navigate those social settings,
Yes.
right? Like some folks can step into a really ambiguous situation like that and kind of figure it out and discover. But for many roles, that's not a core skill set that you're really looking for. And it's
True.
unfair to assess that in a first rounds of interviews with a hiring manager. So
Agreed.
what I love that we do here at Clio is we create interview guides for candidates. I'm also a big fan of empowering your interviewers. For instance, I recruit a lot for software engineers, so we have a entire roster of folks that administer our paired programming and systems design technical interviews. What the business has done is empowered those facilitators to write blog posts about how they would recommend candidates to prepare. So you get additional technical content from folks who are kind of constantly interviewing candidates, which I usually link back, to candidates who I'm talking to so that they can get some additional perspective on our process. I'm a big believer in making time for prep calls with candidates so that you can jump on a 15-minute call and really talk through an interview process with them, talk through any questions that they might have and give them that space to feel a bit more at ease with, the interview that they're stepping into. Having a company that gives space
Yes.
to your people operations team to be able to provide a white glove experience like that.
Yes.
If you have a recruiter with 15, 20 recs on their plate, they're not going to have time.
All the people on the podcast, like, how do you do it leaner? How do you do it faster? A lot of it's like, one last week I was talking to someone who was from Myovision, Justin Kurlicki, and he's phenomenal. And he was just saying how he had 5,000
Yeah,
applicants for one job. And he's like, I don't like, how do you even parse through that? I mean, so Willow is a one-way interviewing screening tool. That's what we
right.
do. Our ethos is like, how do we make this obviously easier for people? But some companies like Clio, like, I love to hear that there's the support and the ability for someone to be like, here's actually like, here's the plan, here's the process. Every single candidate gets a really great experience, it sounds
Yes,
like, and well prepared so they can show up as their best self.
yes, exactly.
So now we're on to our last question, but not really our last question. Question number 3. If you were to suddenly remove CVs from your current hiring process, what would that look like?
um, excuse me. Okay, so this is an interesting one because I'm of two minds.
Okay.
So I see incredible value in CVs, more so LinkedIn profiles. I think LinkedIn profiles are the new CV in the sense that it's dynamic. You can
Mm-hmm.
click into one post, you can see how people engage, you can see recommendations. It's all kind of the same format, so it's easier on the eyes. I'm a big fan of CVs and LinkedIn profiles, more so LinkedIn profiles. But I also see it as the single biggest source of bias in the interview process,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
A CV is a story to someone's journey. It's not just a list of skills, but it's context that leads to meaningful human interviews. I actually struggle in networking events when I don't have someone's CV or like LinkedIn profile, more so profile in front of me, because I find that I can't ask probing questions. It just doesn't lead to the human kind of interview that I love to conduct, which is really getting to the root of what motivates someone, what drives someone, what does someone want as a next step in their career, and how can we make that happen for them? I have a short stint on my LinkedIn profile. Like I was at a company for a short period of time and I left. I intentionally leave that on my profile because I want folks to ask me about that.
Yes.
I lead into my LinkedIn with mom of two boys. I want companies to know that my job is to be a mother first. sorry, it's a non-negotiable for me. And if
Absolutely.
that detracts you, I want you to be detracted from my profile. I do not want
Yeah.
you near my
Yeah,
profile.
because you don't want to join a company that won't see that as a
Exactly.
value. Yeah,
Now, I recognize that's a very privileged thing to say,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
And there's privileges that come with, putting up barriers so that you don't have certain companies. Totally recognize that. But that's kind of how I use my CV. In the hands of an untrained manager or untrained hiring team, a CV is a map of biases, right? A name, graduation year, address, university versus college or whatever, maternity leaves, layoffs, whatever it is a map of biases. So the way that I see it, if you can't really, I don't know if I agree with totally eliminating a CV, but maybe creating more alternative opportunities for candidates to apply to a job where, candidates can, submit something more skills based, but even that can be biased. And that's a heavy lift on candidates. I don't know if candidates want to like disclose so much, technical content because then companies could be crowdsourcing information. There's so many issues like with any alternative, I think,
absolutely.
that I think we just have to think back at the companies that we're applying to and just making sure that they have the right systems in place to look at each submission, whatever it is, equitably. I think it's on the company's part to really be able to put in the work because then you can target folks that are more inclined to submit a video, folks who don't like videos and want to just do a CV. So having, unique ways for candidates to apply based on who they are, and then having the systems within the company set up so that you're not biased towards one submission over the other, right?
Mm,
Being able to look at submissions
I
properly.
love it. I love what I'm learning as well, obviously, as we're learning about like different learning styles and how different people show up, to your point earlier about like, asking someone to step into an interview or a screener without realizing what to expect. Imagine we could do that where it's almost like a middle pathway, choose
Yep.
your own adventure style thing.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
we're big advocates at Willow of skills-based hiring, and that's
Yes.
why we were talking. Where it's like, how can we actually make this process better so you don't
Yes.
end up with 5,000 applicants and having to parse through it by yourself as the only talent person in a team, right? Absolutely.
One thing that I really love with leveraging tools or being able to use tools. So I've been really into giving feedback, like jumping on 15-minute
Love it.
feedback calls, especially for candidates that reach nearer towards the end of our interview process and have invested a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Like I can spend an hour going through and parsing through scorecards, right? But, leveraging AI really cuts down that time so that I can get on a call and have more meaningful discussions and have that interactions.
That leads me into the wild card question. Given that you're doing such a high volume of hiring right now, I'd love to hear about your tech stack and what you guys have internally with Clio that you swear by right now.
Yeah, so we use in terms of our ATS system, we use Workday, which is great. For receiving applicants and kind of mapping out that candidate journey, and that's been working fine. We use LinkedIn obviously for headhunting. We use a tool called Gem has been really great for sourcing for candidates. It's kind of like an AI powered tool that helps source for candidates and kind of target folks that have engaged with us in the past, whose profiles might have been kind of lost in the depths of an applicant tracking system, or really helps target unique ways of searching in LinkedIn, like playing around with Boolean search strings, things like that, to really target different types of candidates and really extend out your reach. Gem has been a really big source of candidate generation for us
Interesting.
and has really helped up our volumes with respect to just our outreach, right? Being able to be a bit more personal, being able to be more targeted and pointed with our searches. So I know that the team is really big on using Gem and setting up campaigns in Gem. And then we're kind of looking at BrightHire for kind of AI note taking. That's going to be adopted, I think, in the next couple
Nice.
months or so. I don't have the exact timeline for that. Very excited about that. In the meantime, I've been using Gemini for kind of, as sometimes when you're on a call with candidates, you're like very furiously taking notes. Like it's
Yeah,
fast, it's
yeah.
furious, it's kind of like doctor stuff. I mean, it's just all over the place. And then I got like arrows and stuff. It's wild, right? So I find that Gemini, for those who don't have like a Bright Hire type of AI specific note taking tool, Gemini has been really great, and you can set up gems to be able to really, you can upload a job description, you can give it and feed it all that information that it needs to be able to summarize notes for you. So I'm a huge believer in kind of like using Gemini specifically for my note taking or assisting in my note taking cleanup.
Love to see an AI driven company using AI tools. We love it.
Yeah, Notebook LM is another good one. It's shout out my colleague Harrison. He's if you want to know anything about optimizing your day I can connect you with Harrison because he's been fantastic at knowledge sharing. He loves just AI and machine learning. That's his jam, that's his space. But he's really been fantastic at knowledge sharing with the rest of the team as to how we can leverage these tools to create efficiencies in our day and further create that more white glove experience. So yeah, shout out to Harrison. He's been fantastic. Yeah, that's where I got all my info from.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Alyssa. I loved the conversation and all of your thoughts and what you're building over there at Clio.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
So fun. And just one last thing, how can people find you?
Yeah, just add me on LinkedIn. My name shows up as Alyssa-Marie Lefebre. Add me on LinkedIn, message me. I'm always happy to talk talent acquisition. I love speaking to folks within my craft. I don't have enough people in my circle that are, kind of recruiters other than the folks that I work with. So I always love, chatting with folks, networking with folks. I love doing that stuff. So yes.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Looks Good on Paper, powered by Willow. If today's 3-question sprint gave you something new to think about, hit subscribe and share with your network, because in hiring, and really in life, it's never just about what looks good on paper.